There we go. All right. Yo. Started kind of late. My oldest daughter and I, we played Street Fighter for a little bit, so it was fun. I'm rusty on the PlayStation 5 controller, but yeah, she's a man on main. So we took a look at that for a little bit. Let me move this over here. So yeah. I can never stick to one thing for too long, of course. So I saw on the Discord that there was a lot of talk about thumbnailing. So I thought about it, and I don't want to give my cards away too much just because the YouTube video is going to go in like pretty extensive depth on the topic and kind of what this new thing is that we're going to be doing. And I'll be doing it tonight too. So you'll get kind of a preview of what that is. But yeah, I never subscribed to the standard way of doing thumbnails of like, oh, I'm going to sketch out 5 blocks and do little pencil sketches and see what works and what doesn't. And I'm like, I just wanted to get to the good stuff, you know? And I'm trying to find a way to get the benefits of thumbnailing without wasting a ton of time on a picture that doesn't seem worth it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like I said, I talk about it more in the actual YouTube video. I'm finishing up the narration for it, and I'm finishing up the second part of the painting, actually taking it from that first step onto a final painting. But yeah, I can see how this could be pretty powerful, and it's exciting the whole way through instead of being really boring and academic up front and then like interesting later. It's kind of fun the whole way through because you're just kind of causing chaos, and it's kind of nice. So let's do that. Let's hop on over. Art with cam right there. So yeah, this might be kind of a shorter stream, maybe a nice hour and a half or something. But I still got my Percy Jackson NDA work that I gotta finish up. I think the due date, it isn't this week, but it's next week. But I want to get it done this week. So it is what it is. So I moved chat over here, so I'm going to be checking over here a lot. I do have one reference image, but not really. Like, it's of crashing waves. Because I have an idea of a kind of a basic sketch. And I say sketch, you'll see what I mean whenever we get started with it. But hope you all are doing real well. So this is actually the piece I'm making for YouTube, and I'll spoil some of it. Basically, this is a technique that has existed forever, and it's called notan, or notan, and it started in Japan, and basically it's a way to balance shapes with white and black only. Nothing else. Just white and black. You don't care about form, you don't care about light, you don't care about any of the things that make an image like rendered or really expanded upon. You literally break it down into the most fundamental thing. So I literally just got a black brush and then just drew shapes and then carved out with some white and made more shapes and like, what's up, Greg? Yes, sir. So yes, this is kind of the spoiler of what it is. So the technique is called notan, and it's mainly used, I see it the most whenever people do like UI and UX design, like user interfaces. They'll use white box and black box, and they'll shift around some stuff, and maybe you add a gray in there every once in a while, but really you keep things as basic as possible. And that's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. And you can see what you do is you start adding one new value at a time to start giving more visual information. So see, literally it goes from that to that just by adding gray and carving out some of the shapes. But the cool thing is, this took, I mean, this actually kind of took me a while to get to this point, which is silly because it's so basic. But there was a lot of like, and thinking, and like, what if it could go here? No. What if it could go here? No. And like double backing and stuff. But as of this point, the image is kind of done. Do you know what I mean? Like, this kind of gets you there. And then like adding more refinement, sharper stuff. And that's literally where I am. The next step is I have gradient maps that I'm going to put on it, and then I'm going to merge everything and then paint on top of it. And that's going to make the image. So it's super, super bare bones. But this to me is more interesting than the other ways I was trying to go about stuff. Because you guys know me, I'm not a super technical, illustrative, like dexterous, like drafts person. Like I don't have a lot of, my perfect dexterity control over a pencil. Like I never trained to do it. I'm not interested in doing it really. I see the appeal, and like whenever we did the anime sketches and stuff like that, like that's cool, and like I get it, and it's like, oh, there's a lot here, and this is really fun to kind of dig into. But I was like, okay, what if we took the energy from that and took the painterly stuff of using a bigger brush instead of just sketching little lines and trying to make it work and trying to design everything all at once? That just seems like a waste of time. I mean, just to be fair, it seems like a waste of time, because you're probably going to end up changing stuff anyway. So it's like, okay, how can we make something very quickly, get it on there, keep it dynamic, and then just start forming the image from this? Almost like you're setting the tempo. You're giving yourself your pulse. It can be as dynamic as you want it to be, and then you start working within the silhouette. And I think there's something cool about that. It's this is part that I talk about on the upcoming YouTube video, but I talk about shape versus form. And I'm definitely a form guy. I was trained to do form and how light hits things and wraps around and all that. But this is pure shape. Form doesn't even make it into the first 50% of this, you know? So yeah, it's a cool idea, right? It's a cool, there's something interesting about it. And I think there's some validity to it. Really, I got the idea primarily from the framed ink books. Those books are incredible. Because if you think about it, comic books like Sin City, Frank Miller, all of his stuff is in notan. The entire book is in that. It's just in pure black and white. And it reads well, and you can follow it along, and like there's no wasted breath, I guess. Like everything's there for a reason, which is awesome. So that's kind of what we're going to do. I have this idea of, and this is where I'm going to bring up my references outside, that way I don't block the actual painting part. Something basic. So like a woman standing on a beach and like looking out. Very kind of a generic image, but my hope is that we can make it look interesting, right? So this is essentially what we're going to be doing. I'm just going to get pure black. And there might be some, how would I do this? There might be some gray, just because the brush that I have is not 100% opacity, or it is 100% opacity, but also has pressure sensitivity. But we're not going to really worry about the gray. I'm just worried about the black versus the white. And then, so we kind of like come in. Her hair does like a This is purely about finding to see if like the silhouettes work, right? It's like those old school, I can't remember what they're called. Maybe you guys especially in North America, maybe in grade school, if you're of a certain age like I am, maybe you did a silhouette. I guess they're called like a vanity, like the silhouette, the black cardboard or cutout silhouette of a face, of a profile of a face. I think that's what they're called. Like that sort of thing. But I know the proportions aren't correct, but that's fine. That's what this is. So before we even start getting into the nitty-gritty of anatomy and all that stuff, we just focus on this. It's almost like doing art with a Sharpie, you know? And I think it should be like somewhat interesting, because all of the important parts of the image should be here whenever we're done. Like we should be able to tell what it is even without any shading, any rendering, anything. Yes, yeah. So, and I'm going to come back and fix this silhouette, but this is just more blocking in the proportion of how she's standing, of like this arm, and then it'll almost look like a paper doll if I do this right, you know. So I could just come and block in the shape like this. But really, this is going to tell us a whole bunch of stuff. It's like that one exercise we did a few weeks ago where we just did the girl with the black, and then we did the soft brushes and stuff, and it rendered out, and it like really popped, and we were like, whoa, that's cool. I really like doing that. So I was like, can I just do that for everything from now on? Make all my images like work better, you know? But the thing is, this is just a thing that I'm not good at, so I have to do it a whole lot in order to get better at it, right? See, the proportions are off because I want her feet to be like down here so I can cast a shadow, but it's like just nailing the silhouette, you know? And we'll just fix it. It's fine. It's just we have to get the shape in first to be able to kind of look and see what it's telling us. Yeah, because like the proportion's all wrong here, but I think... And this will be the nice thing, is we will not move on from this part of it until this looks right. That's one of the qualifiers I have, is like, we cannot go into the next part of the painting until this part is correct. Drawing from imagination. Yeah, that's another thing I need to do better. Because even with this right now, I am using a reference, but it's not kind of dictating the whole composition, which is nice. It's just like, how is she standing more so than anything, you know? See, I need to get the silhouette correct. So that's like her ponytail, you know what I mean? Like, and then this actually needs to, needs to come back down a little more. And this just keeps, the nice thing about this, and probably from what I found, and it's also great because I can just color pick 2 colors and not worry about the rest of it. Not yet, at least. But this keeps the image making part interesting the entire time. Because I know you guys have probably been sick and tired of hearing me go on about like, oh, the first part of the image is always like the ugly part of the painting. It's not there, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta kind of fight through it and all that stuff. Which I still think is true a little bit, but this is at least more engaging because you have to really dial it in order to see if the image is even working at all. And if it is, then great, you can push forward with it and it's worth it. But if not, you got to fix it. But it's way easier to fix it here than it is to fix it when you're like 5 hours in, you know? And then like that. This is getting a little bit too into the detail part right now, but something like this. Her hand drapes across. Almost like she's holding up her dress from... Yeah, that's a good way to go. If you're using reference, just change it. Because, you know, some references could be great paintings, but more often than not really. You know, like... So if there's that... This can be a little more chaotic down here, because if she's holding it up, it's going to be bunching and... You know what I mean? So we're not super worried about the form of it yet. Actually, we do need to round her shape a little bit, I think, to kind of give that illusion of the dress coming back this way. Let's see, even that is not quite right. That's fine. We're just like digging around, you know. Oh, that's the other thing I can do. And with doing stuff like this, the poses can be more dynamic just by the nature of the shapes you use, you know? Is that right? Something like that. Kinda, sorta. And remember, this is just to get us kind of started. And I can't tell if this would be like a super effective thing to do for every single painting, or if this is just like if I wanted to tell myself, oh, I need to have better shapes in this painting or something. You know what I mean? Like, is that where we can really make this work better? See, it's funny because you can almost start getting a sense of the form, even though we're not even worried about form yet, you know? It's like if we have this, and then we could say like, oh, okay, let's have like footprints on the beach. You know, like that's that. And I mean, if we can do the lighting, maybe like this, and then like these will just be the quick like main shoreline, but then as you come out further you have like the crashing waves type of thing. But this is all just so this is literally just the first layer. This is going to be my version of thumbnailing, because I need to make sure the image works okay before I get too far into the image. Because I think, so you remember how we were working on that dinosaur piece, the Velociraptor like card art thing? I am convinced it is not working. That's why we haven't returned back to it, because I would start it completely over. But before I do that, I think having this method in place, something like this, to really sort of like nail down shapes and stuff beforehand, before we even like get started on stuff, I think can work super, super well and make it not happen again. Because I hate that feeling that you're like 10 hours into a painting and the painting isn't even worth 30 minutes, but you spent all this freaking time. You know what I mean? Like, it's a super frustrating feeling. And, you know, and I talk about it in the YouTube video, that like it might, yeah, part of this might be imposter syndrome or whatever, but I think there is validity to it. I think really simplifying, like here's a horizon line right here, you know what I mean? Like really simplifying these shapes and getting this done is going to work way better further along. So it's not as cool to look at. It's not as like interesting, and or I actually think it's more interesting to look at, but it's not as painterly. You're like, oh, because this can lead into underpainting. Like this can lead into that stuff. It's just we need to get good shapes down on the canvas before anything else even matters. You know what I mean? And I think this is a decent way to do that, because now we can play with the composition without spending a lot of time on the composition. And then if I get a little finer detail, like right here, maybe, and then that, and like even like this, hopefully the goal is you can still see the planes, like what could be the midground, what could be the background, even in just using black and white. You know, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect yet, but you can start seeing it, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, I can just add this here, or I can render this here, You know, it makes it just way more fun to work with. And like here, we're quote unquote adding details, but not really. Like, this isn't really detail, you know what I mean? But it is visual information, and visual information can be interpreted as detail. That's a very impressionistic way of viewing it. Like, you can break down John Singer Sargent paintings like this. You know what I mean? This is very, very in that wheelhouse. So, but that's why it's a little bit foreign to me so far. But that's also kind of exciting. Is it's bringing some interest back to the parts of the art phase that I'm not interested in. Like, I don't like very much, which is really thumbnailing. Like, thumbnailing's not my favorite. But this, before you go, yes, exactly. Like, this is just to see if the image is worth a damn. Like, is this worth anything? Can this turn into a good painting or not? Yes or no. And then if not, you can scrap it and do another one of these in what? 11 minutes? You know? So instead of really going gung-ho about our first idea, we should probably get that idea out and look at it, which is what I think the fundamental thing of thumbnailing is. But I don't do classical thumbnails. I don't do the little, here's a sheet of 10 things and I'm going to sketch them out. Like, I don't do that. It seems very boring to me. It seems very, I don't know. But maybe it's part of it. Maybe I try this a few times and then I realize the importance of traditional thumbnailing. But I think this we can do a lot more with. I think this is just more interesting to look at because we can start telling the story already. You know what I mean? And then like, yeah, I'll come in and actually like, get the head silhouette nailed down first and, you know, that type of thing. But we can make it work. And then what's nice about this is you'll see how much power this gives once we start adding gray. Once we start adding the 50% gray in to give us even more kind of definition, it's sort of like a cheat code. It's pretty cool. But yeah, see, we have like some negative shapes. We have some structure here. We got a little bit of something that could be worth pushing forward, right? Because you can kind of see, what's up, Brent? So you can kind of see like the crashing waves, but it's all very doodly and impressionistic right now. There's something like this, and then like here you can bring in, yeah, like the bottom of the dress or something. Like that actually just swoops down if it's like by her back. Let's see, her arms are fairly too long. I mean, if this is going to be her hips or whatever, if that comes down here, that could be a sleeve. You know what I mean? Like, this is where we can without putting a lot of time and effort and energy in right now, we can sort of nail down proportions and stuff. And I mean, it's a good silhouette. You know, it's a decent shape. You can do stuff with this shape. You might get rid of some of this stuff and simplify it a little bit. Let people's brains kind of fill in the gaps. You know, sometimes you want your audience to work for their meal. I'm not digging the head shape. That's fine. A little bit of fog, but you're like, oh yeah, because, and that's the thing, is I'm terrible with lines. I don't do them well. So that's why thumbnailing is like, but that's the thing, Brent, like you can thumbnail to your heart's content. What's up, Rick? You can go to your heart's content with some lines, some good line action, you know. It's just, I like to dig right into the painting, and this allows me to kind of do that without doing that. So this is a cheat. This is my way of cheating in doing thumbnailing. Had a great sleep? Heck yeah, dude. Good morning. So Rick, are you a coffee person in the morning or a tea person, or do you have like a certain drink that you like to drink to get going, or are you more just like breakfast and juice type person? Because I gots to have my coffee, and then I have to have a drip of caffeine, like on an IV line, the entire day. You know. Okay, so we have this. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Let me move that over. 1 liter of water, smart man. All right, so are you guys ready for this ridiculousness on how this ooh, English breakfast, heck yeah. So this already starts off okay. Like, you kind of get the general shapes and stuff in. But when this really gets fun is when you do this. This is almost like a magic trick. Like, whenever we can come in, that might actually be a little dark. Let me bring it up a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Maybe a little lighter. Just a little. There we go. That's better. Cool. So, really what we can do, we're just going to come in here, edit, fill. Oh, not that one. Oh, duh. Got to be on this layer. I'm getting spoiled by Clip Studio now, because you can do a thing in Clip Studio to where you can go on another layer, but you can assign another layer as a reference layer, and it only uses that layer for the stuff. Yeah, we'll do that. And see, what you'll find is it doesn't fill everything all at the same time, which is actually kind of nice, because this lets us play around with the results a little bit, right? So here's that. Now we're here. Could just paint underneath. So no, I just started with a white canvas and then just got a black kind of a marker brush pen and just did this. So what's kind of nice about this is it lets you get just real crazy. So let's say we wanted to add like, oh, let's make sure we have some clouds and the sunrise and whatever. We can just come in here and say, this is going to be about the area that I want the sun to be at. Right? Kind of breaking through. And then, or actually, we can do that nice thing to where the sun is down here. So this is like true notan sort of stuff. We can do like this down here, and then that nice Bob Ross thing to where you just make the Z lines coming all the way down. You know? It's a super cheap way to do it, but hey man, it works. You know? It works well. But then like you get that, and then we can actually this will be over here. Let's sort of get that back in that way. And then this that way. Gotcha. And then we can use that same gray. Let me get a hard round brush. Oh, this hard round. There we go. And that's when you can like there's her face or something, you know what I mean? And then like an ear, but then you come in here. So you like just basically sculpt in what you want to see. And then here, now we can actually make, yeah, let's just make that a little bit darker, actually. Let's go like that. I can't get that angle of the nose. Oh, that's better. Okay. So something like that. And then you get that again. And then we can do that. And sort of, this is where you just sort of kind of fill in the silhouette. A little bit more, maybe. And see, it's nice because we're working in values, but not really. Like, it doesn't really matter yet. This is just a way to start bringing in different shapes, you know? Because all we're looking at is the readability of the image. So, like, we can have this. Have a little bit black right there. And another way you can do this, and it would actually look a little sharper, I think, is if you do lasso, if you do the lasso tool and just like draw out your shapes and then kind of color within them, you know? But see, so this is a mix of like value mixed with painting, mixed with notan, mixed with just pure like composition shapes and stuff. You can bring this up. And then, I mean, even you can use the white that we already have and be like, get that. But then, like, you know how waves have the top crest of them has that foam on it? We can use that white as the foam. So if we were to like come back by and see, I can come here and just add these kind of hard round shapes without thinking too much about it. And then you can get that pure white again. And just do like scratchy stuff, you know? You see her proportions are off again, but that's fine. I feel like I need to like nail these down more though. She needs to have more of a turn, I guess. No, I guess that's fine. And then like from here we can just expand it a little bit more. We can even start bringing in other brushes, you know. Because we'll get rid of a vast majority of the harsh black. So if I have like the plastic wrap brush, or no, let's do like main 2. Hola, what's up, my friend? Good to see you. We are trying some new techniques here, and we will see how it goes. Actually, let's do oil canvas and see what we can. Yeah, that's cool, because that still has a nice kind of painterly look. So we can keep the contrast high around her, actually. Like coming through here and doing like that nice swoop, you know? And it'll give us a decent silhouette to like work with the personally find that thumbnail really detailed. So this is a so I guess it's like a stepping stone, like blocks. Like basically I never thumbnail, I just paint. But then the painting is the thumbnail, to where since I'm just in black and white, I can move stuff and not worry about it, and then see if it starts making sense and start bringing it out. Which is the part I love about painting, like whenever we get further along in something. So maybe this is a way that I can make thumbnailing more like, you know, it just makes it more fun. And that's actually something I talked about in the video. because this is the entire topic of the next YouTube video, is thumbnailing and how I don't really like doing standard thumbnails. You know? Loved your video about finding contentment. Thank you so much. That dang old fortune cookie, you know? Who knew that fortune cookies could be so cool? And then, like, if we come here and we can start. Because what I'm really hoping is all the work we put into this part, once we start adding in gradient maps, this thing is going to be fire. It's going to look awesome. Like, we can do maybe... Oh, yeah, see, we can just carve her a little bit better that way. I'm going to bring that down. Actually, we'll bring that up too. So I need this. I think the shape of her pose is going to be the thing that's going to drop into color layer fill. Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's going to be kind of the nice thing is like, let's say I wanted to do that. I'm like, okay, I feel pretty good about where it is. So I'm going to get more of like a burnt sienna or maybe like a raw umber look. I'm going to edit, fill, foreground color, and then I could do color like this, or I could even do like overlay to dull it out a little bit. You could do soft light to really dull it out. You can do a lot of stuff, but what I'm hoping is that using gradient maps and keeping one gradient map for the background and the midground, and then one gradient map for our foreground and the character is really like bam. Like, it's gonna be the thing. That's actually the next step in that Mobius piece I'm working on. Because once I add the gradient maps in there, then I can quote unquote start painting. You know what I mean? But I think it's gonna look pretty dope because it's already coming along and I'm already pretty happy with it as an image. So this is all a exercise in finding a way to make sure that the paintings that I work on are worth doing. Like, are the images worth painting? Got paint like burnt sienna in their color schemes. Yes, I was very pleased when they brought that up in a beta test. They were like, oh, by the way, we added, because I think they worked with like Jackson Art Supplies or something, and they were like, oh, they gave us a list of like, what was it, 48 of their most highest selling colors, and we added all those to a oil painting swatch pack, and we're gonna just include it in there. And I was like, oh, because yeah, they have the Zorn palette, they have, you know, they have the whole kit and caboodle, and I was super pleased. I was like, oh, thank God, now I don't have to like memorize hex codes and all that stuff, you know. So if we do that, and then comes like that. There's a reason in particular. Yes. No, that's correct. So this, I'll show you the other piece that I was working on. So I don't want to give the whole thing away because this is actually what the next YouTube video is about. But There is a design sensibility in Japanese art called notan or notan, which is only black and only white. And that's it. There's no gray, there's no anything. And if the image is readable in pure black and pure white, no grayscale, just two colors, the image is going to work as you add more and more and more to it. Let me bring this over here. Okay. This is notan right here. So this, you can see, like Andrew Loomis talks about this in his creative illustration book. It's a classic. But really the main classics, and I have them on my bookshelf and I talk about them in the video, is framed ink. Framed ink, all he uses is black ink on a white paper, and that's it. Can he make a compelling image? Yeah. So this is this sort of thing, because whenever I discuss a full value range, what I'm talking about is form. How is light hitting things? How is it like how is the light and the dark and the shadows and stuff, how is that creating form on a person or a thing or an object? This is nothing but shape. This is just triangle, circle, square, rectangle, prism, hexagon, whatever basic geometric shapes, because you don't care yet about shadows wrapping around, and you don't care about it. So that's why it's sort of this is a thumbnail pass, is like, are my shapes good? Do the silhouettes work? Like a great example is, if you're a fan of video games, or if you're a fan of like Pixar, or you're a fan of anything like that. Overwatch silhouettes. If you play Overwatch, you can tell exactly what character is what character based on their silhouette. Just the silhouette. You don't need anything else. The game that really made this a thing was Team Fortress 2. Valve are geniuses when it comes to designing characters. So you needed to be able to read the character just as a silhouette. And it works super, super, super well. That if you have this and you can read it within a split second, it works. You can do whatever you want in the silhouette, but good design and good like readability is probably more important than anything else. Values, once you start rendering form, are going to tell you how the light hits and how you turn these shapes into three-dimensional things, which is form. So that's the difference. With this, we're just working flat. We're working 2D. Doesn't quite matter yet. We're starting to approach. See, this is how I started my little Mobius tribute study thing. Pure black, pure white. I did have pen pressure on, so that's why some of these are gray. But literally, this is as pure black and white as you can get. And like even the quote-unquote form is just white dots telling me, okay, he's wearing a backpack type thing. He has a gun. Like the light's going to kind of come in here. But it's not really about form. It's just about, hey, does this look cool? And like you can tell what side of the building is in shadow. But I didn't render anything. I'm not like, I don't know. It's a different mentality, because if you're worried just about shapes, it doesn't matter what the shading or what your, yeah, like if you go look at Mobius and you go look at his art, he doesn't have shadows. He doesn't do what you would think about like rendering shadows. He doesn't even render light at all. Another thing is like Archie comics. Archie comics are genius at looking, or like Tintin. If you look at these things, there's no shadow, there's no light, there's no form being shown. This is purely shape language. It's shapes and color. So you have your color contrast. Like this would be a shadow, but notice how it doesn't affect anything on the character. It's just being a cast shadow, and it's also just a graphic outline, sort of like we did with our night painting a few weeks back. This reads super clean, super good, but this is not too far removed from like J.C. Leyendecker or Norman Rockwell. Yeah, they might use more of, you know, the kind of rendering stuff and forms and stuff, but like if you render this and make this look realistic, that's a Leyendecker through and through. Do you know what I mean? Like it's about finding that balance. And I think I focus so much on the rendering side of things, and I focus so much on the, you know, value does do the work and color gets the credit and stuff. But what if you didn't really have value? You know, you do, because I mean, this is darker than this, and you know, this is lighter than this, and this. So you have that, but you're not worried about like, how is this color going to cast the shadow? It doesn't matter, because that's not the important part. This is all purely about shapes, you know. And then like Mobius, of course, is a freaking genius. But yeah, if you see this, like, you can kind of see he does a little crosshatch right here and maybe a little right here to show a thing and maybe a little right there and stuff. But he's not rendering form. He doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit of something right here maybe, but this is all color contrast more than it is value contrast, in my opinion. This is based on the colors that he chose and like the gradient. That's why I thought gradient map would be a good idea of doing this type of thing, is because he essentially just works with gradients and it works. It works hella good. And this is the type of impactful artwork that I actually don't think I'm very good at making. So the whole theory behind this is if I can make this look cool at this level, as you start adding, see, and this is literally, I added one layer of just gray and we went from this to that. That's an astronomical leap, but I added one color, like one value, and just kind of went and etched some stuff and lines and all that stuff. But I didn't really care about, I'm still not caring about form yet. When we learn something new and forget which stage of the process we are, maybe that's why we, totally. Well, and that's, yes, so you nailed it. Sometimes we overcomplicate it. So I got so caught up in the minutia of the science, of the theory of light bouncing and all this stuff. It's like, okay, that's fine. It's good to know that stuff. It's helpful. It's powerful. But what if the image sucks? What if it? What if it? No one cares. Like, I'm finding out more and more that nobody really cares how well you can paint. They don't. Like, they don't. Some people do, but like those people are probably other artists. And to be completely fair, they're not going to hire you because they're artists. They're looking for jobs in damn selves. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, okay, how can I make my images just wicked, just looking awesome? Like people look at it like, damn, like that's cool. Like I want that. Whatever that is, whatever you're selling, I want it. To have that sort of energy, and usually we get them in a sketch, and then as we start rendering, we lose it. So it's like, what's the secret sauce on finding that energy of an initial idea, an initial sketch, getting that lightning in a bottle, and keeping it for the entire painting? The entire painting. Not, oh, well, it started off cool and then it got kind of, or, well, it started off a little iffy, but we made it work because our brush works better. Like, what if, what if you got it looking awesome the whole time? Do you know what I mean? Like, so going from, yeah, this to this, I remember when I, and I only did this a few nights ago, but I added in that gray and I was like, my brain started like sizzling almost. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I've been thinking about this kind of wrong this whole time. Um, because like this, I would argue this reads better than a vast majority of the stuff in my portfolio. Just this. It's not rendered yet. It's not done. It's not complete. It's not whatever. But I think this is more interesting to look at than some of the other stuff that's finished that I spent 40 and 50 hours on in my portfolio. And this took me maybe a whopping 45 minutes. So if 45 minutes in, I'm getting more impactful images than I did after 40 hours of trying all this other fancy pants, edge control, light control, whatever, maybe I need to start studying this type of thing for a little bit to make that other rendering stuff really pay off. Because can you imagine something that would have the impact of like basic shapes and like really cool just basic compositions with insane painterly skills? Like, it'd be off the hook. You would have to deny jobs. You would get hired by everybody so fast that and it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter if you were doing fine art in a museum. It wouldn't matter. I mean, okay, actually, there is an artist that has done this. There is an artist that has done this. And his name is Dean Cornwell. Dean Cornwell is an absolute savage when it comes to anything art related. So you can see how he would do this in Notan. Black, 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 black. And then, oh, black over here, and then some over here. Oh, and the black shape for the dress, and this, and this. Oh, but then you come in at the end with your sick painting technique and do the cast shadows and the soft, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is absurd. Like, this type of painting is ridiculous. We're just, come on. Like, it makes me want to turn my desk into, like, a card table. You know what I mean? It's so ahead of, like, it's just, and yeah, so look at this. Like, let me zoom it in a little bit more. But like the shapes are so freaking strong, and the form is kind of there, but if you see the form, he has form shadows, like little cast shadows on the nose of the character and stuff like that. But then also, this cast shadow is just a silhouette shape. It's nothing crazy. You know, and this dude was doing these in, God, God, that's so cool. Like, these are so freaking good. I could look at this all day. Like, you know what I mean? This is 1892 to 1960. You talk about shapes, man. You ain't getting better than Dean Cornwell. It ain't gonna happen. But all of his paintings are like this. That's just nuts. You see what I mean? So maybe it was like, okay, and see the brushstrokes are gorgeous and that beautiful pop of orange and the nice. He almost did a gradient map, and then essentially just grayscaled out the rest of it except for the leaves. But notice it's not like, well, these leaves are really bright, kind of orange, and they're really kind of glowy. So wouldn't the glow of this go and like cast light and color on the doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. This is it is exceptionally good. And like, yeah, I'm not the first person to say that Dean Cornwell's, pretty good at this painting thing. But this, like, that, come on. Come on. You can't get better than that. There's no way. There's no improvement on that. Can't do it. So it's like that type of thing. If you can get those cool shapes, if it gets exciting, if it's fun, if it's interesting to look at, if it pops off the canvas, that's it. That's what we're in, And then like, this is just one more layer. So I just took and kept all these shapes, right? And I did one more layer, boom, to refine some of the shapes, add a little bit of stuff in the background, add a little bit more. This is where I'm starting to introduce more values. Like, okay, now I'm a little bit lighter here, but still doing the white as the highlight because this side of the buildings are hit with light while these are hit with shadow. So let's do that same motif. But then I brought in a little bit of quote unquote bounce light over on this side because if you see how this was so dark, and this is just kind of one value, here I added some more value to it. And that's really where I am right now. And then yeah, a little sneak peek of this is the gradients that I chose that we're gonna turn it into like a full painting. But that's the gimmick, right? That's the idea of what we're doing. So yeah, kind of doing the same thing here. It takes a few more steps. It does take a little bit to get there. But what this is ensuring is that we're keeping those cool, readable shapes the entire time. And I think that's way more important than like, I don't know. I mean, at the end of this year, as I make more images kind of like this and like really bring it to a polish and a finish, I think I'm going to get rid of about half of my portfolio. I'm going to keep some of the stuff, some of the big name, the Warhammer, the, Riot Games, Adidas, like the big stuff, and some of the more popular ones that get a lot of likes on socials. But then I think I'm really going to start buckling down and focusing on this type of thing. Because I would love to get work doing this type of stuff. Now, of course, we're maybe 10% of the way through this painting right now. But it's already better, in my opinion, than the stuff I was making before. Just lines and black messes. See, and that's the thing. I'm not great with sketch lines because I get so caught up on proportions being right and I start designing things too early and like, well, the armor has to fold over and it has to... But I don't think that's where my strong point is. And it's not a thing to where like, if I spend a lot of time to get better at it, I actually don't think it would help me all that much. But I think something like this would. Making the big shapes, blocking them in, making that composition better, and then locking in and pushing that to the best it can be. I think there's something to it. I think there seems to be an energy to it that is not in my other stuff. And I think that's pretty exciting. and like right now, this still doesn't like read like an ocean necessarily. You can maybe get a little bit of it from that, but then if I like start coming in and see, I start adding like those the what is it, like the frothy line type thing where the water's coming up onto the beach, you know, and maybe I can do something like that. Yeah, I think what it is, and I talk about it a little bit in the YouTube video, I almost felt guilty that I was not giving clients what I thought were good enough images. They thought they were good enough, and I was happy that they were happy. But I was also like, no, something's not right. And I think, and here's the thing, and this is going to go a little inside baseball and maybe cause a little gossip stuff, but that's fine. I think where I started getting this kind of, I'm not pleased with where I'm at, has to do with Warhammer. One, for two reasons. Okay, number one, the other people that are on Warhammer are so far above my level right now, just looking at their stuff and interpreting it, and even like getting notes from them and being, you know, getting on email chains and seeing their art turn-ins and they're reviewing my art and stuff. They're just so far above where I'm at. They're very kind. They give great feedback, and they've really improved my ways of rendering and stuff like that. But even they have been like, it seems like there's something missing. And we don't know if it's something in the painting that's missing, or like a method, or a step, like a whole step of something. So that's the type of feedback I've been given by some of the teams. But then also, the last book I have credits in for Warhammer, basically I turned a corner because my art is not in the book. And that devastated me. Like, literally, like, talking with my wife, like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. Like, this whole, I know I left my other job, and I said I'd do this for the rest of my life. I don't know if I have what it takes. Because my whole idea of getting into Warhammer is to be in the freaking book. That's it. Like, do the thing, do it well, and, you know, have people enjoy it while they're playing the game, and then hopefully your art can be part of their enjoyment. That's the whole idea. And it didn't happen. And we worked for, I only had 4 paintings I did for that project. And the turnaround time on just those 4 paintings was 11 months. It was almost an entire calendar year until we got the all clear. And they didn't make the cut. And I was like, all right. Literally, that means I worked on each painting for 3 months. You're talking hundreds, if not thousands of hours on these paintings that now won't see the light of day. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm not where I need to be. Because in my mind, and this may not be realistic, this may not be a fair assessment, but in my mind, my art should be good enough that they are drooling to make it the freaking cover. Do you know what I mean? Like, there should be no doubt in anyone's mind. Like, that's the level that I want to be at. I want to be at that level to where you can't be ignored. They're going to want to interview you about how did you make this freaking image. Like, we need to figure out your secret sauce. Like, that's where I want to be. Like, that's the level I want to be at. And that's probably not realistic, and I understand that. But it's a good goal. Oh, for sure. Well, and that's absolutely true. The career's not easy. It's not an easy career at all. And a lot of people, hell, even some of the people that I consider like art heroes went through exactly the same thing. They were part of a project, they got the pat on the back, they got the nice job type stuff. But then it just, for whatever reason, their stuff didn't make it. But then they all had the same reaction, like, oh my God, I need to level up and I need to do it right now. And that's sort of what I guess I'm going through. But that's also why, if you ask any of your favorite, like, Magic the Gathering artists, or you know, something like that, they're all going to tell you that it took them about 7 years of being a professional artist to get their first Magic the Gathering card. Because I think you kind of have to go through that one thing. You have to go through the that kind of inner turmoil of, hey, I don't know if this, you know, is this any good, or, you know, like, you have to kind of go through that. And you got to level up. But then it means you're ready. You have to pay those dues. You have to get kicked down a little bit. Then you have to come back. You have to come back stronger. You have to come back better. I mean, art as a career is not for the faint of heart. It's really not. It's fun, though. It's super fun. And see, like, this type of stuff right here, see how I'm kind of sketching but kind of painting, but I'm not even really paying attention to what I'm doing because I'm talking? This is why this technique seems to be really cool, is because you can get a lot done just from this sort of shape structure and shape language, you know? I think so too. That's what I'm hoping, and that's what I that's what I was telling my wife. I was talking about it. I was like, yeah, I have this thing written, and, you know, I'm probably going to do it. And she's like, yeah, no, you should. That sounds really cool, and you're going to learn a lot regardless. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to either learn if it is for me or not for me or whatever. And, like, any information at this point is super valuable. And then I was like, you know what? And she said it kind of perfectly, because I was like, you know what? It might completely suck. It might not be good at all. And then she was like, but it'll be fun. I was like, you know what? You're right. It will be fun. Yeah, that's true. It is a complete journey. Even the people that got their paintings in the book, they may have some crap people. Oh, yeah. Oh, here's the thing. Professional artists, and I can say this with 100%, no qualms about it, certainty. I promise you, I have made more bad images than a lot of my students have made images. Because I don't know if you guys know that a lot of you guys kind of joined up fairly recently on the YouTube stuff. So you weren't there for the very first part, kind of pre-YouTube art stuff. For my first year, I went pro. From October, God, when was it? October, like 2019 to, yeah, around October 2020. I did a painting a day. Not a sketch a day, a painting, a full-on open canvas, 300 DPI. I wanted it to be good enough to print it, like make prints and all this stuff. A day. And I didn't stop. Some days I did 2 paintings. A few days I did 3 paintings. So within 1 calendar year, I think I did the count. I had 408 paintings. And a vast majority of them suck. In fact, I would say pretty much all but like 1 or 2 suck. If you go on my portfolio and you look through the ones that I've kept, if any of them say 2019 or 2020, those were the only good ones from the entire year. The only ones. And now, even looking back at those, they're probably not great. But they had something. They had something enough to get me jobs. You know what I mean? Like, so I think part of it might be imposter syndrome. Because I mean, if you're comparing yourself to Dean Cornwell, everybody has imposter syndrome. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, he's the freaking master. But I know I can make a pretty good image if you give me enough time, and you know, I kind of have a cool idea and we can make it work. Like I can push an image to make it sellable, viewable. Like I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried, to me, are the images any good? Like, I think there's a difference for that. You know, I do think there is. Sure, you can sell it. Sure, people might enjoy it. Some people might have critiques and all that stuff, and that's fine. But like, at the end of the day, are you pleased with it? And did you make a good image? Yes or no? And that seems to be the real thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we're all chasing. Let's add some white there, because why not? It doesn't make sense, but who cares? So see, we're already getting a little bit more rendered now. We're starting to get to the level of like, okay, we can start kind of pushing and pulling things now, right? And we can say, yeah, so we can start taking this to an actual like values level now, I think. Because I think we have enough here that that we can start making this work. Like, yeah. A week for 6 months, they all sucked, but I came out the other side, a competent writer, repurposed a bunch of it. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, then you have stuff you can look back on. You can see it, and you can be like, oh, you know, my wife writes, and she's really freaking good. And we talk all the time about, you cannot edit words that are not on the page. You just can't do it. It doesn't exist. So if we come over here, let's start doing these values. We're going to start bringing this in. We're going to get rid of some of the harsher things right here. And actually, let's lighten up the sky here. And see, these are using like big brushes and stuff too. That's what's kind of nice about doing this as well, is like, see how easy we're putting in clouds? We're just using the... We can sort of get rid of this. And now, this is where I'm going to start using the principles that we talked about earlier about value. That, hey, if something's further back, it's going to be lighter. If it's coming forward, it's going to be darker. This is where we're actually going to start using some of that to start rendering. So I would consider this, now we're getting into kind of a rendering phase. And it's still kind of rough and tumble. It's not using the exact right brushes. It's not using any color yet, stuff like that. But like, you'll see how much of a difference just tweaking values here and there can get us pretty far, you know. She's on the beach. Yeah. It's like just very basic strokes. And see, these are going to be waves, but right now it looks like rocks. So that's the sort of thing. So I think we're at that point. We can actually like make these look like waves. And I think that will start helping us, of course. You know, just make the image more clear, more readable. And like, that comes through there. Get rid of that one. Let's see. Maybe that can come over here. Coming at me and say, yep. So basically it's like, it's a nice kind of curved U-shape, C-shape thing. Literally, they're all arrows pointing to her. It's a super kind of gimmicky way to do it, but it works. So that's why I like doing it. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to even out. Yeah, there we go. This line, because the waves sort of like come up, right? Yeah. So if I grab that and I start really coming in, we're going to keep that darker because near the base of the water, waves are darker usually. But then if, like up here, we have like that sort of crashing wave look. It's going to be harder to make it not look like rocks. But I like the idea of the one line kind of coming through, you know. And then we can do the darker actually right here. Because this is where more reflections are going to be. And then this is more like choppy. Because as the waves come up, they get a little bit more choppy, right? Sea foam. See what I mean? This is all just from the... We can like come over here. This is all just from that black and white initial sketch. Just boxing in big shapes and... Yes, yeah, and that's kind of the plan. So really we're going to wait to do any of the edge control stuff until we get our color gradients in, and then we can actually just treat this like a standard painting. But this is why this can work so well as like a thumbnailing tool. You know what I mean? Because we can get to the good stuff pretty quick. And I mean, this image, you know, started from that, essentially. And it was even just white on the other stuff. But like, you can see this is kind of the image. And yeah, we added some stuff and kind of controlled the value a little bit. And now we're doing it even more here. But the image isn't changing all that much. It just allows us to get to the fun part quicker. And then it's just better. You know what I mean? Yeah, to me it just feels like a better image already. And then we can spend all the time we want refining the details and all that stuff. And I mean, hell, you could even... I think it would actually be a disservice to like photo bash or something, but you could. I mean, you got the idea. But I think part of the energy of this is like keeping it very kind of sketchy and... But we're still not even at the point yet to where we're super concerned about what the thing is yet. Like, they look a little more like waves. You know, I think it's really going to help whenever we get the colors in. But we're still very kind of shape focused. Then like... And like, see, I haven't even really rendered these as clouds yet, because we're not quite there. We're close, but we're not quite there. But I just think this is more fun. This is just way more fun than trying to do it some other way. Because it's chaotic, it's interesting, there's shapes, there's value changes, there's, you know, there's just way more to it. And then as we're just adding in this little bits of information, more and more of it, you know, it's really going to start paying off here in a second, because I am about to add in the gradient maps, you know. And then also with her, here's her. And then if we actually come up here, maybe right here. See, I completely forgot about her, which is kind of bad because she's kind of the point, you know. But it will allow us to really kind of focus in and I've only used like 2 or 3 brushes. On the top left. Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, it could be, you could do a lighthouse or something, but I also don't want anything to draw attention away. Because if this whole idea is about simplicity, we can keep it as really as simple as possible. And plus it'll help. Like maybe we can have birds flying in, maybe we can yeah, and it's nice because like the dress is blowing a little, right? Like we're getting a little bit of information. So we have that. And then we can even maybe lighten this up a little bit more and start giving it a little bit more form by doing something like this. You know, basically we can just come in over here, sort of fill these in, right? And then that's too much, but I like the idea. That needs to be a little lighter. Something's off on, oh, I know what it is. It's like something's not quite right. That needs, there we go. That actually needs, her back needs to come up and go over this part. Do that. Make her arm a little less. Yeah. And I can also make her arm less dark right there. There we go. Yeah, it's starting to work. So the real fun is going to be this. Let's go ahead. Let's add a gradient map. Let me change this to color. What do we want to do? Actually, I think rose gold, sky gradients. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. Do something like that. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Ooh, that was good too. I like that one a lot, actually. There it is. So if we have something like this, okay, so we have that one, right? Then let's make another one. Gradient map. Color. Let's see about something like that, maybe. Or maybe this one. This one, maybe. I don't know. This one's a decent, like, neutral look. So what the idea is if we something like this, edit, fill, black, I'm just gonna experiment a little with this. This is probably not going to be how we keep it, but this is the power of gradient maps that we can use, right? So if we come over here, we start kind of sprinkling in some of these blues. Start like receding it a little bit. See, this, like that. It's like a cheat code, dude. Oh my god. What? Take it easy, Greg. Appreciate you, brother. So, like, this is kind of nuts, actually. I was not expecting that, to be fair. I knew the idea was sound. I did not expect that. So now I wonder if we can hit this with maybe a little bit of those. So it gives it a little bit more variance up in the sky too, you know? Then if we come up over here and sort of don't want to do it too much, but we do that, right? And then sort of and see, this is decent as just like a first color pass, because we can always come in and add other stuff here in a second. But like, that just looks really interesting to me. You know what I mean? Like, this just looks cool. And then maybe we can even bring this in right here. So even though the values are the same, it kind of breaks up the ground a little, you know? And then I can just come in and with harder pressure, give a few like saturated areas. Yeah, that's pretty dope. That is pretty cool. So I got about 20 more minutes left on tonight's stream. But yeah, that's to say that's exciting is an understatement. because I think there's good like color balances, there's good the values I need to fix, but you know what I mean? This is a pretty cool start. I'm happy with that. Huh. So, doing all this on a clipping mask with 2 gradients. Yes, indeedy. So we have just the one, which I just had kind of an orange with a yellow on the more highlight stuff. And then the second one, which was just all the cools. So we have warm and cool, warm and cool. That's the nice thing, is you have to think this is now a monochromatic cool painting, right? This is the monochromatic warm painting, but instead of it being just really monochromatic, it's more like you're doing analogous colors. So all of the warms here, you're gonna have the yellows, your oranges, not really the reds necessarily. Some of the darks get a little more towards the purpley sort of brown. So maybe kind of your burnt sienna type reds here, or like burnt umber, really. So think of it almost like you have 2 analogous gradient maps, but the gradient maps themselves are complementary, because if this one is all of your oranges and kind of your yellow and whatever for the highlight, this one is going to be your cyans and your blues, you know. And what's nice is then whenever you slightly paint, like you hide the one layer and then start painting it in with kind of a loose brush, because you have your pressure sensitivity on, now you're getting all the variance in between too. So these are like grays and blues, but they also, with the gray next to there, that's kind of purple. So it's introducing even more colors. When you're back in the blues and using different values, that has a different effect. So yeah, yeah, I think what it does is because these are both on the color layer as well. So if I came in and I made this like a soft light, it doesn't impact it nearly as much. You know what I mean? Because it's not really taking the hue. Or I could overlay it, and then it just sort of like barely shifts the thing, you know? It barely shifts the dial towards the stuff. But if you do color, you're getting the full hue of that color mask, or the gradient map, and how it's dictating on the values. So you might be changing the value a little bit, or the perception of the value, but that actually benefits us because that's yet another bit of information. It's detail without adding any detail. Like, your eyes catch it because of the slightly more saturation or less saturation or whatever. But like, technically, you know, like, this is the grayscale with just the blues. So you can see how we just barely introduced some of these blues. They're not super saturated. Some of them are over here, or more saturated, I should say, like in the dress. No, you're good. Well, because there's actually a lot of color theory happening here. And it's funny because it's so easy to do as like an effect, but the theory behind it's actually kind of complicated. Like, because we're dealing with the perception of value, we're dealing with the hue versus saturation, we're dealing with warm versus cool. But once again, The reason why, in my opinion, this is so powerful is because we were able to start here. I genuinely think this has everything to do with why this works. I used to think it was separate, and part of me still kind of thinks it's separate, that, oh, well, you do your values and then you do the color. But I think instead of thinking it as far as like a sketch and then values and then color and then painting and then all this stuff, really just make the image look good, or interesting at least, here. Because we can repurpose, we could totally repurpose this composition, and she could be a farm girl. And she could be holding a bucket. She could be like doing this. We could maybe put another figure over here, maybe like kneeling down, like digging, or using some sort of farm tool. We actually build like a little farmhouse over here. So this is essentially still a thumbnail. But because we were interested in where this could take us, then we added that part. And we're like, okay, now this reads more. Yes, I would consider this underpainting. All of this and like getting the value and telling the story a little better, and then that, like, hell, we could just do this as an underpainting and we would be off to the races. But just by adding this, we've given ourselves a whole field day that then if we want to come in and really start like painting, like we get the thick brushes and the painterly stuff and start smudging edges and doing all that, this will be a home run. This image, more so than a lot of my other ones lately, would be, you know, as long as I handle my business okay here, you know what I mean? But this is set up to be a successful painting. And I think that's the secret. I think this sort of stuff and where my mind's headed as far as like shape language and right. So like, and what's nice about that, so you thought she was a farm girl at the beginning. I'm leaving stuff up to the audience, and I actually think people like those images more. I think there's something more about it if you're more intrigued by it and you're like, that's what that looks like to me. Now you have invested part of yourself into it. Does that make sense? Because I was being so literal, because I was being so, well, the material of this and then the light bouncing off of it, and that I wasn't allowing the viewer to really have a conversation with the painting. And I think that's what you need, is you need your viewer to want to like put themselves in the story or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, that's why I think this is so fun, because it's like, oh, this has the quote unquote loose brushwork, but it's not about brushwork yet. Like, we haven't even started brushwork, but it still has the good energy of a sketch. And really keeping this, like, I could literally just worry about kind of rendering her dress a little more. Maybe doing the feet, maybe, getting some of the silhouette a little better, maybe adding a bit of texture up front here, rendering these waves a little bit just to give you a sense of what it is. But I might not even have to touch these waves, or any of the background. I may not have to, because if I can really render, not even tight render, but just make it to where there's no confusion about what you're looking at here in the foreground, your brain will fill in the rest. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. There's something rad about this one. I'm digging it. But I was flying without a net because this still says untitled, which means I have not saved it. I haven't saved it at all. Um, beach visit. Great. So yeah, I that's actually really exciting because I feel like the stuff that normally gives me problems during a painting have kind of been solved already. Maybe not solved all the way, but like there's no mistaking where I need to go from here. There's not a, oh, I wonder if I did this, and well, what if we changed this? It's literally the wishy-washiness of like that dinosaur painting that we did. The Velociraptor. And the painting was fine. It looked okay, but we kept changing stuff, and then it was like, well, but how should it be rendered, and how should it be? And if I'm so far into the headspace of like, well, every single tiny tweak has to be very specific because there's no fun in that anymore. And the image isn't fun. But this one, I can add some cool speckles. I can add some cool stuff. Because really, I would say genuinely, I think this painting's like 85% of the way done. It's just a matter of going in there, doing some cool brush stuff, refining some of these edges. But really, even the rendering of this dress I kind of like quite a bit. Like, I need to get rid of the really dark shadow here. I don't think it quite fits. You know, it's just a little too much. And I temper down some of these other black as well. But like, that's gravy. That's, you know. Yeah, so oddly enough, yeah, I guess that's true. Oddly enough, by making the process less traditional painting, like more comic book, quote unquote, on just getting the black and white to work, maybe it does look more like a painting. Like, how hilarious is that? That as we try more and more to dig into like, well, what's a good impasto brush? What's a good, you know, looking at it and what good canvas texture can I put on this to make it look like a, but like this is, I think you're right. I think this is more of a traditional painting than some of the stuff I've made recently, you know? And yeah, like really, I would just come in and now I would just like new layer, and I'm about to log off. I got like 5 minutes left. But what I would do is I would like just come in here and get me like a hard round or something. And then just like refine this so the shape is just a little, you know, I need to make her face bigger, but like I like that kind of. And then we just color pick. That's the other thing we get to do. We did the gradients and stuff. Now I can just color pick around here. Yeah, exactly. It seems very brushwork heavy, but it's not. And then I can like just take this. Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that silhouette shape, so I wanted to keep I wanted to keep that exact silhouette. But yes, then we just come over here. We can maybe even like bring her hair down a little more. You know? So if we do like Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. The very kind of sharp angular look, but then from here we have this, and then I can color pick some of these brights from the warms, right? Because we made those. Actually, there's one good one down here, and then like we start doing that. We start bringing this in. You know, we can bring this up and over. And maybe, I think I like her with dark hair actually. So we will just darken this in. And see, it lets us kind of play around, but it's not going to be destructive to the picture. It's not going to be... And yeah, and then keeping the kind of loosey-goosey brushwork around is nice, because that gives us our sense of like impressionism. That gives us our sense of that kind of quote-unquote painterly feel without really having to do all that much yet, you know? But then I can like sharpen that edge and come over here and we can like sharpen, sharpen, sharpen. Maybe, I know I had like a bow back here, but that's, I don't know if I like that, because normally a bow on a dress like that's in front, right? It's a nice thing about having daughters is I'm actually somewhat well versed in what the dresses do. Let's see, we'll get that. So yeah, like, let me actually simplify the back a little bit more. We want this to be fairly smooth, you know. And see, I would just think that this is actually more fun and cool to look at. And it might be because of the angles. It might be, you know, there might be quite a few reasons why. But it allows us to get into the fun details of this and like without yeah. Without really having to like go super rendery on everything. We can just really focus on our focal point and render this, render her out. And I think the whole piece is going to look better because of it, you know? It's funny, now that I'm doing more of this, it's like, this kind of reminds me of the stuff by like Bayard Wu. The stuff that I really enjoy looking at. Because the angles are there, there is brushwork, but it's not overbearing. It's not a gimmick, you know what I mean? Like the brushes are actually serving a purpose. Maybe that comes down. And maybe here this one comes up. And see, what's fun about this is I could paint like this all night. I'm going to absolutely do this forever. Like, it's a fun one. I do think this needs to be a little bit more rendered. Like this type of thing here. Let me grab that color. Bring that color here. Somewhere here. Actually need to... That's true. Frazetta's a master at just the implied stuff. Like... And see, we can keep that. And then if we come over here... Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but this is like way more interesting than some of my other stuff lately. Like, it looks better. Yeah, it's just a better painting. Like it, there's no real two ways about it. I think this is very much a way forward. Ooh, and you know what we could do? Let me get some of these highlights here. What would her legs be doing? Because I saw this highlight and I was like, I have to fix that. And then I was like, no, what if I do that whole transparent dress thing? Like, because of the light hitting it a certain way? Dude, that's sick. Yeah, that is gnarly. So much cooler to look at. It really is. It just is, man. Yeah, that's ridiculous. See, it's stuff like that. When you find little things like this. Oh, that's so dope. Oh my god. Yeah, see, way more fun. Yeah, I'm doing this forever now. This is my new method. This is dope. Like, it feels like I can do whatever I want and it works. And you know what? I like it. I like that feeling. So if I grab like the darker deal right here. Yeah, oh for sure. Yeah, we'll play a little with the in-game texture. And I have a whole lot of like texture brush type stuff here. You guys haven't even seen the real nitty gritties of the new brush pack, but you will. And it's awesome. I will need to really focus and get that hand right, but having too much fun with that dress right now. Yeah, this one, it's so funny to think that we've been clamoring for a level up for so long. And I genuinely think this one might be the thing we've been kind of looking for. Because we're not really... And if you notice something, I just now noticed this, actually. Not once have I worried about what color her dress is. Do you know what I mean? I haven't been like, well, she needs to be wearing a blue dress, and the blue dress, and if you mix it with this color, and you mix it with that, and you do, you know, all that theory stuff, it actually kind of, I mean, it matters somewhat because I'm just color picking here. But genuinely, I don't think it's, I think we just, like, skipped all that headache part. I think we skipped all the headache part and we just got to the good stuff, which I like very much. Right? And then like, if I got my razor blade brush, yes, that is awesome. That's what I was hoping for. So I did repurpose my razor blade brush from a few brush packs ago, but it's for exactly this reason. So I can do the sharpest edges you know. Then yeah, see, and that's the other thing is like make that story pop, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we can definitely get that story in there. Like, it is completely up to the viewer. We're not going to tell the viewer anything. People can make up their own stories for it, you know. Do that one. Actually, let me bring that up. And let me repurpose that here. Yeah, it's like the anatomy stuff I'll fix. I will fix this for sure, but right now it's actually okay. And then what my theory is if I get something like this hard round texture brush, I start bringing in a little bit of texture, but then I come over here and get the really nice like watercolor look stuff, and actually like start paint rendering, you know. And like grungy splatter. This is almost like a Craig Mullins type thing. This is the type of thing Craig Mullins does to get his like details in. This is where he'll grab a texture brush and just start going ham. To highlight water motion. Ooh, maybe so. Yeah. Like the anatomy stuff is, I'll fix it later. Like that's literally like finishing touches stuff. But right now it's more about getting the rest of this to work. Because once the rest of it is done, we can spend as much time as we want on we can spend as much time as we want on the rendering and the anatomy and stuff. So yeah, we'll have like one canvas brush here, doing like this. we can do our palette knife. See if we can like, if we do this, and we can even like desaturate it and make it lighter to really give it like that nice dried out sand look. We do a little bit of the, let's do a little bit of the sergeant. Why not? Why not? Let's come in here. Let's do some of these. This is where we're gonna get to do the fun impressionist brushwork and really kind of come in and make this happen. Because really, what this needs to be, I wonder, instead of like the dark bluish stuff, I wonder, can it be like, can it be the darker yellow? We get the yellow and then like make it almost like a green color. You know, since the waves have like that weird, almost like green look whenever it pulls up algae and and then more of this, some of the waves cresting over, right? Yeah, this is cool. Then we can even get some of these, kind of the lighter looks, but also it's still not as light as like those big highlights, and do our foam, kind of that wave foam that needs to kind of exist within the wave itself. So yeah, now I think we're cooking. We're cooking with something, you know? I do think, let me break that down a little. I think we got a winner on our hands. And then just gonna steal that shadow color because it works well. Looks pretty good to me. Then we can, yeah, I don't want to get so like, oh, the waves have to look realistic, because I think the power is in the shapes. So I do think there is something to keeping it, like leaving it alone. So if we're over there, and then really, we just bring in some of the texture here, and then yeah, maybe just kind of fixing, like fixing her hand, fixing this arm, getting rid of some of this black, fixing her feet, you know, all that stuff is kind of like now the main priority. And if I get rid of some of those, turn that into something like that, something here. And then like wonder if no, probably stay flat foot. Really, I'll just simplify this shape so I can get this angle correct. Yeah, I don't mind doing the anatomy stuff for like hands and feet. The only thing is, my deal is I don't want them, I don't need them, I should say, to look like uber realistic. I just need the shape to work okay. And then I think we're good. We have that, and also we can even like do something like that. Sort of get rid of this, but really it's like side of her foot. You know. I wonder if that, let's see, what value is that? So if I want that, then bring the value down here, up the saturation a little bit. I'll bring this a little bit more. Really, it's about finding out this shape, probably, like add in just a little bit of more nuance with, oh yeah, because see, then I can start seeing that line, like her hip, her leg. Okay, yeah. And then we can actually, that just means we can bring this over more. And then we can even do that there if we wanted to keep a interesting shape, right? We'll do this. Let me bring that up a little bit. So that actually needs to be a little lighter, I feel. Yeah, to really get that sort of glow. Yeah, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. The belt works good. This can actually come out a little more for her sleeve there. Yeah. I think we have a winner. Just don't know how much more I want to render her out. You know. Get rid of some of these other darks right here. I will keep that shape. Okay, that reads better because her forearm wasn't quite the right shape. And then if I come over here, and then so really I want to bring this in, get rid of that. There we go. Just imply the hand there. There we go. That's a better look. Like, how ironic would that be? If the more, like, quote-unquote comic book, like... Yeah, man. Yeah, it's just a better picture. It's just a better picture than what I've been making lately. And I'll be the first to say it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no two ways about it, really. So I'm going to... Actually, let me make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to redo these footprints. Like that. And then also I can grab like a highlight and then like come down here. Because if there's moisture, the moisture would catch like those little glints of... Doesn't look like a comic. That's true, actually. And isn't that crazy that we started with something that's extremely comic book, you know? Yeah, and see, I can add some little dots here, because since it's near our focal point, we can get away with it. And like here... And see, if you notice, I didn't really worry about perspective too much. I didn't worry about like the art stuff. Does that make sense? Like, I wasn't concerned really with all of the things that people tell you are like of the utmost importance, probably me included in some of my videos. But like, it didn't matter. I think I just need to fix some of these waves. And then this might actually be done. I might call it before I overwork this thing to death, you know? Then, oh, what I could probably do. Where is my orangey splatter? Yeah, for sure. This is very much a mid-tone painting now. I agree. Because if we do a fill black, like, that's where we're at now, you know? And it still works real well. It still reads really well. It's still fairly easy to tell, like, what's going on. But what's funny, you know, normally how I'm like, well, you know, value is the most important and stuff, and you know, the image works in value, and color adds a little bit maybe, but on this one, I think the color is actually doing a lot of heavy lifting. I think the color helps it tell the story, which is how things should be. That's how paintings should be. Everything should help everything else. And I think I got so caught up in the form rendering and not the shape language that I wouldn't be able to do something with this type of color really beforehand, because I was so worried about what color everything was. But maybe everything just needs to be the color of the gradient. Maybe for every painting I do from now on, I don't care about what color necessarily like a cape is, or armor, or whatever. I let the entire scene dictate it because of the gradient maps, right? Because I'll show you the one that we're gonna push a little more for the YouTube video is this one, and then we have the, you know, that right there. But then the gradients for it are like this, which I think is pretty cool. Like, it's way different than what I normally do, but that's kind of the point. And I think there's something real fun in that. Because I can take this and I can start adding some paintbrush strokes and stuff and really make this kind of pop. And it's more interesting to look at, you know? Same thing, I mean, same thing here. This is a better painting than I've done lately, you know? Yeah, this is totally, I even called it Mobius style. So this is a straight up Mobius ripoff. But I wanted to do that to kind of learn that I can do this. You know what I mean? And we talk about that a little bit in the video. So that video should be up probably in the next few days, maybe like Monday or Tuesday. It should be up. And it's all about thumbnailing. But if you've been in this stream, you've seen that. What I might do, I might render some of these folds, but I will do that probably off stream. And then, yeah, probably get rid of some of these blacks, because that, like, these are okay, you know, but I don't want it to look super unfinished. Like, the ones here are okay. I need to clean that up and clean these up. But then the painting's done. I might do some fancy smudge brush stuff, like you said. Maybe crest one of these waves, but not really touch it too much after that. Yeah. So that is what we got so far. Not bad for, what, 3 hours of work? 2.5 hours of work? Happier with this after 2.5 hours than a lot of my other stuff after 2.5 hours. I'll tell you that. But yeah, there's a lot to like here. There's a lot to kind of dig in and really kind of be pleased with. And yeah, we see some of the canvas texture, but I'll come and I'll knock in some goodies in there for everyone. Yeah, and it's funny, there's not a lot to this one, but I will probably put this up on the Patreon too, the PSD file, after it's all said and done. But that, I believe, will be my time for today. So thanks for hanging out. Thank you for making this an awesome Saturday. Very happy with this new style. I think we're gonna stick with this. It's more interesting at every part of the phase, or every phase of the process. It's fun to do it in black and white, purely black and white, just to see if the shapes work and if the composition of the shapes on the canvas work. Then kind of finding the picture within those shapes. Then rendering a little bit more, using value, then adding a gradient map, then tying it all together. So a lot to think on. Yeah. Appreciate you very much. So yeah, you never know. It's just, this should be a lesson in like, try the craziest stuff and like try to work in a method that you're not used to, because I'm really not used to this. I'm not used to this at all, but it feels fresh and exciting because I can kind of make the image interesting in the first 10 minutes instead of, well, I think I have this idea, let me start it, and now I'm 5 hours in and it kind of looks okay, but not really, and what does it need? It needs something else. We're kind of, the goal is to get rid of that. The goal is to stop waffling around later in a painting and just like make the meat of it good right up front. Get 80% of the painting done with like one layer and a bunch of big shapes, and then go in and like refine and tweak the stuff that's already there. Yeah, I think it's a recipe for success. So yeah, that's my time, and we will see you guys on Wednesday. We're gonna get the YouTube video before that, but you know where I'm at. I'm at the Discord all the time. You guys are posting some amazing art up there, by the way, so keep that up. And if you're watching on YouTube, appreciate you very much. Yeah, come hang out. We got links maybe in the description. I need to start putting all the links in the description to the live streams, because by default they don't have any. It just says like powered by Restream or something, but yeah, I appreciate you all a ton. This is a pretty exciting thing. I'm glad that we've been able to like learn about this technique and style together, because it's heavy. Like it's a pretty profound impact, you know. So I'm gonna go play with this a little bit more. I'll probably post up the final of this one tomorrow, which is crazy to think about. Like a full complete painting that I'm pretty pleased with, get it done in a day. That hasn't happened in a long time, so that's an exciting prospect. But that is my time, and I will catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.